Have you ever noticed how you feel when someone walks into a room before they even open their mouth to speak? Perhaps you see someone in a sharp, dark suit and you immediately think they are powerful or important. Or maybe you see someone in a bright, colorful dress and you assume they are friendly and full of life. We all do this every single day. We look at the fabric, the colors, and the shapes people wear and we tell ourselves a story about who they are. We decide in a split second if someone is a hero or if they are someone we should avoid. It is a quiet, invisible language that we all speak without ever being taught the words. This process of judging others based on their appearance is something deep inside us. It is how we navigate the world. But have you ever stopped to wonder who wrote the rules for that language? Who decided that black represents mystery or that pink represents kindness? We often move through our lives believing that our opinions are our own, but many of the things we feel are actually being designed for us by someone else. Think about the movies you watch or the plays you see. Every button, every hat, and every frayed hem on a jacket is a deliberate choice. These choices are meant to lead your heart in a certain direction. The people who create these looks are not just playing with fabric and sequins. They are master storytellers who use perception as their main tool. They understand that before a character says their first line of dialogue, the audience has already made a judgment. This brings us to a very simple surface concept. We often think that clothing is just decoration. We see a beautiful dress on a stage and think it is there just to look pretty. We assume the job of a designer is simply to make things look historical or fashionable. But if we only look at the beauty of the material, we miss the actual conversation happening right in front of us. Clothing is a language of silhouette, color, and texture. A sharp black line can make someone look dangerous. A soft, velvet fabric can make someone look vulnerable. When we see these things, we feel an instant reaction. It is a silent manipulation of our feelings. The designer is asking you to lean in with curiosity or to pull back with suspicion. They are setting the emotional stage long before the plot begins to unfold. This hidden language is very powerful because it works on our subconscious mind. You feel the story even if you do not realize you are being told one. However, there is a much deeper hidden assumption that we must explore. We often assume that our ideas of what is good or what is wicked are natural or fixed. We think we just know what a villain looks like. But these ideas are often based on old stories and biases that have been handed down to us for centuries. We have been told that certain colors or certain types of people represent specific traits. These assumptions can be used for better or for worse. For a long time, the world of storytelling used clothing to reinforce stereotypes. It used appearance to tell us who belongs and who is an outsider. If we do not question these visual cues, we end up living in a world of narrow boxes. We stop seeing the actual human being and only see the costume they are wearing. We assume the person with the most jewels and the biggest crown is the one with the most wisdom, while the person in the simple, dusty clothes is less important. This is where we see a fascinating structural pattern in how we view history and society. Often, we see a duality between the old world and the new world. The old world is represented by rigid rules, heavy decorations, and a sense of being preserved in the past. It looks like a painting that never changes. In contrast, the new world is often represented by energy, movement, and a mix of different influences. When we see these two things together, it highlights a struggle. It shows us the tension between the establishment and those who are trying to change it. This pattern appears in our stories about revolutions and even in our stories about modern cities. We see groups of people who are separated by their uniforms, whether it is denim and sneakers or vibrant, flowing textiles. These visual borders make us believe that the two sides are completely different. But if you look closer, you see that these borders are never as fixed as we pretend. In a healthy society, colors and styles begin to bleed together. Cultures mix, and the fabric of one starts to echo the fabric of the other. This shows us that even in conflict, we are more connected than we think. We can reframe this entire idea by looking at design not as a way to label people, but as a way to ask questions. Instead of using a costume to tell you someone is wicked, a designer can use it to ask you why you think they are wicked in the first place. This is a radical shift in perspective. It moves us away from stereotypes and toward empathy. Imagine a character who is famous for being a villain, but when you see them, they are dressed with intelligence and compassion. It forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew. You start to realize that wickedness is often just a label we put on people we do not understand. By changing the lens through which we see these characters, we can begin to dismantle the biases we carry. We start to see that the person who has been ostracized might actually be the one who is most worthy of our respect. This is a way of using art to redesign our reality. It allows us to give dignity and complexity to those who have been marginalized or ignored by history. We can apply this to our own daily lives in a very practical way. Think about the costumes you wear every day. The clothes you choose, the way you style your hair, and even the objects you keep in your home are all part of your personal story. They reflect your aspirations, your growth, and your conflicts. But more importantly, think about the assumptions you make when you look at others. When you see a stranger on the bus or a new colleague at work, what is the first story your brain tells you about them based on their appearance? Are you relying on the old rules of the language, or are you willing to look deeper? We can choose to be more conscious of our perceptions. We can recognize that design is never neutral. Every image we see in the world is trying to tell us something about who matters and who does not. If we can become aware of this silent manipulation, we can start to reclaim our own power of judgment. We can decide to stop believing the simple stories of heroes and villains. Instead, we can look for the human fingerprints on everything. We can value the culture and the history that lives in the things people create and wear. This deepening of our understanding helps us relate to others in a much more honest way. It reminds us that even in a world of fantasy or performance, the goal is to find something human that allows us to see ourselves in the story. We are all evolving. Our stories are not static, and neither are we. We move through our own emotional arcs, and our outward appearance often reflects that journey. By showing care for the details of our own and others' lives, we create a more compassionate culture. We start to see that the real tragedy is not our differences, but the systems that try to keep us separated. We can use the beauty of our diverse cultures to create a blend rather than a wall. This is the magic of redesigning our world. It starts with a single shade of color or a specific texture, but it ends with a new way of seeing the entire human family. We have the opportunity every day to reimagine the answers to the big questions about who belongs and who is worthy. We do not have to accept the definitions we were handed. We can choose to look past the fabric and the sequins to find the truth underneath. When we realize that our perceptions can be redesigned, we open the door to a much more inclusive future. It is a future where no one is judged without speaking a word, and where everyone has the right to own their own history. Our clothing carries memory, but we are the ones who decide what those memories mean. We are the ones who decide who gets to be the hero of the story. If you were to look in the mirror right now and ignore the labels society has given you, what part of your own hidden story would you want the world to see through the clothes you choose to wear tomorrow?